Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Zombie World deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this deck is one of my favorite decks to play because you can swarm the field with all sorts of absolutely incredible zombie monsters. This deck also plays one of the most powerful field spells in the entire game, Zombie World, which turns basically every monster into zombies, which is absolutely insane. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of Notification Squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name script for a single video, getting us signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing two copies of Doom King Baller Draw. This card is absolutely insane as a boss monster because it has the ability that during the standby phase, if there's a face-up card in the field spell zone and this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon this card in defense position. But you can only special summon this card by that effect once per turn, which is absolutely insane that you get to bring back this card to your side of the field. It also has the ability that once per chain, when a zombie monster except Doom King Baller Draw activates its effect, except during the damage step, quick effect, you can apply one of these effects, but you cannot apply the same effect of Doom King Baller Draw again this turn. You can either negate the effect or banish a monster from the field or grave, which is absolutely insane that this card does not target and it's a walking negate. I then play a single copy of Al Ghul Mazrah. This card is a really good one of the deck. It has the ability if a zombie monster you control would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you manage this card from your hand or graveyard instead, giving you a little bit of protection. But if this card is banished from your hand or graveyard, you can special summon this card in defense position, and then you can reduce its level by 1, which is a really good effect to have on this card, because it gives you a boss monster on the field while also giving you some protection. I then play a single copy of Changshi. Changshi is a really good one-of in the deck because it has the ability that during your main phase, you can send a zombie monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard. This card is what you're usually going to summon first off your copy of Glow Up Bloom, because then you can use this card's effect to send your copy of Doom King Baller Draw to the graveyard, so you get 2 monsters instead of 1, which is really powerful. It also has the ability, if this card is banished, then you can banish a zombie monster from your graveyard to special summon this card, but place it on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field, which is a really good effect that you can reuse this card. I then play a single copy of Banshee. Banshee is just a really good one of the deck that helps you get to your copy of Zombie World. I feel like one copy is totally fine, especially since we have cards like Gozuki and Unizombie that can send this card from deck to graveyard. I then play 3 copies of the most insane zombie support we've ever gotten in Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's going to be 3 copies of Unizombie. Unizombie is the best zombie card ever created besides Doom King Baller Draw, because this card is a discard a zombie from the hand to increase a zombie on the field's level, and it's a foolish burial to increase a zombie's level by 1. And it's a tuner. This card does it all for us, which is absolutely insane, and it's a definite 3 of in the deck. We then play 2 copies of Shiranui Solitaire. Unizombie is so important in this deck. I'm playing 2 copies of Shiranui Solitaire so that we can just tribute Shiranui Solitaire and instantly get to our copy of our Unizombie. I then play 2 copies of Gozuki. Gozuki is a really good 2 of in the deck because it has the ability that during the main phase, you can send a zombie type monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if this card is sent to the graveyard, then you can manage a zombie type monster from your graveyard except Gozuki and special summon a zombie type monster from your hand, which is a pretty good effect because that is a once per turn that it can send from deck to graveyard, which is absolutely insane. I then play 2 copies of Mizuki. Mizuki is a really good 2 of in the deck. I don't feel like you need any more than 2 copies of this card. You can manage this card from the graveyard, target a zombie in the graveyard, and special summon it, essentially being a monster reborn for your zombies, which is really nice. And then play a single copy of Mad Mauler. Mad Mauler is a really good tuner in the deck. You only need a single copy of this card, and it also counts as Plague Spreader Zombie, which is absolutely crazy. But if this card is in your graveyard, then you can target a level 6 or higher monster that you control, reduce its level by 2, and you special summon this card. Also, the player who summoned this card cannot special summon monsters except zombie monsters while this card is face up in the monster zone, which is not that big of a deal because we're immediately going to synchro summon or link summon with this card and get it off the field so that we can go into some some really powerful extra deck cards. I then play 2 copies of Glow Up Bloom. Glow Up Bloom is really insane. It's one of my favorite zombie support cards as well, because it has the ability, if this card is sent to the graveyard, then you can banish this card from the grave, and if you do, add a level 5 or higher zombie monster from your deck to hand. But if you control Zombie World, you can special summon that monster instead, which is really good because we're usually summoning our copy of Chang-Chi, and then using Chang-Chi to send our copy of Doom King Baller Drop from deck to graveyard, which is really good. The only downside of this card is for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you can't special summon anything but zombies. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is a really good 3 of in the deck, just to stop the opponent from touching the deck. So this card is a definite 3 of in this build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Monster Reborn. Monster Reborn is just a fantastic extender in the deck to get any of our monsters back out of the graveyard. And then play a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is fantastic in the deck just to be able to send any of our zombies from deck to graveyard so we can start going in for our really awesome plays. And then play a single copy of Called by the Grave just to stop the opponent from hand trapping us while we're going in for all of our absolutely insane plays. We then play a single copy of Instant Fusion, and then 2 copies of Ready Fusion. These cards basically do the exact same thing, but you want to play them at 2 and 1 so that you don't play 3 copies of Ready Fusion, because you can only activate Ready Fusion once per turn. But basically what they do is pay 1,000 life points to special summon one of our normal zombie tuner monsters from our extra deck, which is really good, like our copy of Allvain or our Sea Monster, which is really, really awesome. We then play 3 copies of Zombie World. Zombie World is the most insane field spell in the entire game and one of the most simple field spell effects. All monsters on the field and in both players' graveyard become zombie monsters, which is absolutely crazy for us because we have so many power plays when our opponent has zombie monsters, so this card is a definite 3 of in the deck. It also has the ability neither player can tribute summon monsters except zombie monsters, which is super good in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Polymerization is really good comboed with our copy of Zombie World because we have some absolutely insane Super Poly targets in the extra deck, which is really good, like our copy of Nether Soul Dragon that we can make with 2 of our opponent's monsters since they're considered zombie monsters when Zombie World is on the field. So this card is an absolutely insane powerhouse in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Forbidden Droplets. Forbidden Droplets is a really good 3 of in the deck. If you want to play some other hand traps like copies of Effect Veiler, Impermanence, other cards like that, you definitely can instead of Forbidden Droplets. But I like this card in the deck because you send any number of other cards from your hand or field to the graveyard and then choose that many effect monsters that your opponent controls, and until the end of this turn, their attack is halved and also their effects are negated. In response to this card's activation, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects of cards with the same original type, monster, spell, or trap, as cards sent to the graveyard to activate this card. This card is really good because you can send a bunch of zombies from your hand to the graveyard to be able to set up the graveyard while also negating multiple monsters that your opponent has and also halving their attack points so you can do some serious damage, which is why I'm playing this card as a 3 of in this deck. So that's it for these spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. And remember, you can change these out for Effect Veilers or copies of DD Crow if you want to, or even Infinite Impermanence. So that's it for the spells. Let's get into the traps. We're then playing 2 copies of Shiranui Swallows Slash. This card is a really good 2 of. It's basically an Icarus attack that you tribute a zombie monster and then target 2 cards on the field and destroy them, which is an awesome effect to have in this deck, especially with cards like Doom King Baller Drop that bring themselves back every single standby phase. This card is basically free, which is really nice. And then we play 3 copies of Rivalry of Warlords. This is one of the best cards that you can play in Zombie World because each player can only control one type of monster and they must send all face-up monsters that are not that one type that they choose to the graveyard. But since we have Zombie World on the field, they must choose zombie because all the monsters on the field are going to become zombie. So unless they're playing the mirror match or they're playing zombie monsters, they can't summon when you have your copy of Rivalry and Zombie World on the field, which is absolutely insane. It completely locked down your opponent from summoning monsters, which is really, really good. They can only control one monster. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Red Eyes Zombie Dragon Lord. This card is really good as a one-of in the deck because it has a really insane effect that during your opponent's turn, a quick effect, you can target a zombie monster in your graveyard and special summon it. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish a zombie monster you control and special summon this card. And you can only use each effect this card once per turn, but this card is really good that it's basically a walking monster reborn during your opponent's turn. I then play a single copy of Psychic End Punisher. Psychic End Punisher is really good to summon in the deck because this card can get absolutely massive and it's just a really good card overall to synchro summon in this deck. And then play a single copy of Baron de Fleur. Baron de Fleur is a really good walking negate in this deck and it's a fantastic level 10 monster that we can make in this build. And then play a single copy of Skeletal Dragon Felgrand. Felgrand is a good one-of in the deck. I don't feel like you need any more than a single copy of this card. And it says if this card is special summoned, then you can target one monster that your opponent controls or in their graveyard and banish it, which is an insanely powerful effect to just get rid of an opponent's monster. And if a monster is special summoned from either player's graveyard, while this monster is on the field, except during the damage step, you can target one other face-up monster on the field and negate its effects until the end of the turn, which we're always going to be special summoning monsters, especially with cards like Doom King Ballardrot in the deck. So this card is basically going to be a once per turn negate, which is really good. I then play a single copy of Riser Dragon. Riser Dragon is a good one-of, basically a walking Foolish Burial and a tuner monster, so this card is a really good one-of in the deck. I then play a single copy of Immortal Dragon. Immortal Dragon is insanely powerful in this deck and a definite one-of. This card is a tuner monster, which is really good, and it also has the ability during your main phase, you can send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do, this card's level becomes the difference in original levels of that monster and this card. And when your zombie monster is destroyed by battle while this card's in the graveyard, you can special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field, which is really good. But this card helps you synchro climb and is a walking Foolish Barrel, which is really good in zombie decks. And then play a single copy of Nether Soul Dragon. This card is absolutely insane for Super Poly, especially since it just takes 2 zombie monsters to make this card. So you can basically just use this card with Super Poly while you have your copy of Zombie World on the field to get rid of your opponent's monsters, and it also generates tokens, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. This card is just a really good Super Poly target overall to make if your opponent's playing Dark. One copy of Garuga. Garuga is a really good one as well as a Super Poly target because this card is just so generic and so easy to make. I then play a single copy of Sea Monster. Sea Monster is a ready fusion, instant fusion target to bring out to the field so we can synchro something because this card is a level 5 zombie monster, which is really nice. And it's also a tuner monster, so we can go in for a lot of different synchro plays. I then play a single copy of Alvain. Alvain is a good one-of in the deck because it is a tuner monster and it is a level 2, so it makes it super easy to go in for all sorts of different synchro plays. I play a single copy of Boral Sword Dragon so we can clean up games in OTK. This card is a really good one-of because we're not playing a bunch of different attributes in this deck. We're just playing Dark for our Link monster, so I played this card instead of Access Code. It's just really good overall. We're then playing a single copy of Vampire Sucker. Vampire Sucker is a really good one-of in any zombie deck because it has some absolutely insane effects. So this card is a definite one-of in this build. I'm then playing a single copy of Avenged Savior. This card is also a really good Link monster to play in any zombie deck. It has a really awesome effect that this card's name becomes Revenged Slayer while on the field, and you can only use each of the effects of this card once per turn, that you can target a Avenged monster or Avenged card in the grave and add it back to the hand. But the effect that we're always going to use on this card is during damage calculation. If this card battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can send a zombie monster from your deck to the graveyard, and that opponent's monster loses attack equal to the level of that monster sent to the graveyard times 200, which is really good. We then play a single copy of Link Rebo, just in case we draw into our copy of Glow Bloom, we can normal summon it and link for this, and if we have Zombie World on the field, we're going to get a copy of Changshi, and then send our copy of Ballardrot to the graveyard, which is really good. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Zombie World before, you definitely should give this deck a try. I absolutely love Zombie World. I'm probably going to be making a bunch of different versions of this deck coming soon, and I really like the pure version like this, but I might make a punk version, a danger version, but definitely comment down below what version you would like to see of Zombie World. I really want to make a punk version on the channel, so if I have, definitely check that out. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.